Hello, my sleepless friend. Welcome back to Ancient Sleep. I am your guide, the sleepless historian. Feel the tension locked within the stone. You can see the strain in their stone muscles, the cords standing out on their necks. You can see the grotesque grimaces on the faces of the demons, their eyes bulging with effort. You can see the calm, unwavering determination on the faces of the gods. They are churning the cosmic sea for 1 billion years to produce Amrita, the elixir of immortality. The level of detail is suffocating, overwhelming. Beneath the main figures, the cosmic water is teeming with life. Crocodiles, fish, turtles, writhing sea monsters, all carved with the same obsessive, meticulous care as the gods themselves. The deeper you look, the more you see. There is no empty space. The artists were guided by horror vacui, the fear of emptiness. Every inch is filled with swirling flowers, with intricate geometric patterns, with life. It is a visual cacophony, a deafening riot of information frozen in absolute silence. Imagine the noise when this wall was being carved. Imagine hundreds of men working here simultaneously. The incessant, ringing chorus of hammers on chisels would have been deafening. The cloud of stone dust would have choked the sun itself, creating a permanent, gritty twilight in these sacred halls. And yet, the final result is a profound, eternal silence. When the chisel stops, the stone remains. It seizes a single, fluid moment of divine action and freezes it for eternity. The cosmic tug-of-war never concludes. The celestial ocean never ceases its churn. The Apsara never, ever lowers her hand. We are witnessing a profound transference of energy. The raw kinetic force of the artisan's muscle, fueled by the slow-burning calories of the rice he ate for breakfast, the protein from the fish he netted in the canal, has been meticulously, painstakingly hammered into the unyielding heart of the sandstone. That energy is not lost. It is merely stored, a universe of potential held in crystalline suspension, waiting to be unleashed by the simple, miraculous act of being seen, by the curious and willing eye of a future beholder. The light in the long, pillared corridor is beginning to fail. Outside, the sun bleeds toward the horizon, casting long, molten beams that slice between the columns like the blades of golden swords. The light rakes across the relief carvings at a low, acute angle. This is the magic hour. The sacred moment the gray stone remembers the primordial fire of its own creation and turns to gold. And suddenly, the shallow carvings erupt into 3 dimensions. Shadows bleed from every chiseled crevice, stretching into long, inky fingers that deepen the contours with a breathtaking, dramatic urgency. The carved demons, once static figures of menace, now seem to writhe with a newfound visceral agony, their struggles appearing to gasp for the very air. The serene smile of the Apsara, once merely peaceful, now deepens with the weight of a secret knowledge, a newfound and intoxicating mystery. The stone itself appears to ripple and breathe, its surface coming alive as the river of light flows across its face. You are no longer in your bed. You are standing in a long, dark corridor, a gallery carved from the twilight itself. Above you, a vaulted ceiling of immense gray sandstone blocks arches inward, each colossal stone leaning on the next in a corbelled embrace that has held its breath for 1,000 years. To your left is a solid, unbroken wall, its surface cool, impassive, absolute. To your right, a stoic procession of massive, square-shouldered pillars opens out into a courtyard. It is cinema, conceived and executed 1,000 years before the invention of the camera. It is animation, powered not by hand-cranked machines, but by the infallible orbital mechanics of the sun. The artisan puts down his tool. The chisel falls silent, its ringing voice extinguished. He wipes a greasy film of sweat and powdered stone from his brow with the back of his calloused hand. A fine tremor, a ghost of the day's relentless percussive labor, still hums in his fingertips. He reaches out, a gesture of profound and weary intimacy, and touches the cheek of the stone woman he has spent his day coaxing from the rock. Her skin is still rough, a constellation of unfinished textures, but it is warm from the sun's final, lingering kiss. He does not know that his anonymous work will outlast the very gods it depicts. He does not know that the Janga, a patient green predator, will one day return to strangle this very corridor in a slow, silent, crushing embrace. He does not know that 1,000 years from now, in the electric blue aftermath of a monsoon storm, you will stand in this exact spot, a creature from an unimaginable future, wondering about the man whose hands gave such eternal life to this stone. He knows only the unyielding truth of the rock, the fleeting whisper of a human life, and the sacred duty to create something beautiful before the final, inevitable darkness comes. The dust, disturbed by his movement, settles like a soft gray shroud on the gallery floor. The rhythmic tap, tap, tapping of the chisel fades from the air, becoming one with memory. The hands have completed their sacred work. Now the body makes its earthly demands. The stomach growls, a hollow drum demanding sustenance. The muscles scream for rest. We must leave this cold spiritual world of immortal stone and return to the warm, organic, and brutally ephemeral world of the living. We must follow the artisan home. We must smell the smoke of his hearth fire. The temple recedes behind us, a mountain of silence. The carving is done for the day. The sun finally dips below the feathery crowns of the sugar palms, painting the surface of the canals in brilliant, impossible stripes of violet and molten orange. As we walk away from the sacred precinct, the ground beneath our feet transforms. It is no longer the paved sandstone of the Royal Causeway. It is soft, packed earth, still radiating the day's captive heat. The profound, ringing silence of the sanctuary is replaced by a rising, chaotic symphony of domestic life. The sharp, territorial bark of a village dog, the plaintive, raw-throated cry of a hungry baby. And in that courtyard, the rain is falling. The rhythmic, reassuring thump, thump, thump of a heavy wooden pestle pounding spices in a mortar, a sound that is the very heartbeat of the village. Look up. The architecture has changed entirely. There are no stone towers here, no spires aspiring to touch the heavens. The homes of the people are born of the forest and belong to the water. They stand on tall, spindly legs, sturdy wooden stilts that lift the living floor 2 meters off the ground, creating a world suspended between earth and sky, an archipelago of wooden arcs awaiting the annual flood. Why? Because these people understand the water with an intimacy born of generations. They know the land here breathes with the seasons, inhaling in the dry months and exhaling a world of water with the coming of the monsoon. In the dry season, the cool, shaded space beneath the house is a workshop, a stable for the lumbering oxen, a place to hang a loom for weaving the shimmering silk that is the envy of the empire. But in the wet season, the season of the green ocean, the water will inevitably rise. It will creep up the stilts and lap at the floorboards, transforming the village into a picturesque network of small, interconnected islands. To live here is to live with the flood, not in defiance of it. Climb the simple bamboo ladder. Each rung is polished to a deep silken sheen, worn smooth as river stone by generations of bare feet. Step onto the floor. It is crafted from split bamboo, lashed together with tough, fibrous rattan vines. It gives slightly, elastically under your weight. It is a floor that breathes. Through the narrow gaps you can see the chickens scratching in the dust below, and later tonight you will see the moon's reflection swimming in the rising water. And then the smell hits you. It is not a polite smell. It is not a scent for the timid. It is ancient, pungent, and overwhelmingly powerful. It is the smell of Prahok. In a large clay jar, tucked into a shadowy corner, fish from the Great Lake have been salted, crushed into a coarse paste, and left to undergo a violent transformative alchemy of salt and thyme, fermenting for months, even years. It is the cheese of Southeast Asia, a flavor bomb of pure, unadulterated umami. To the uninitiated, it might carry the high, sharp scent of decay. But to the people of Angkor, it is the unmistakable perfume of survival. It is the concentrated protein of the bountiful Tonle sap, preserved against the lean months. It falls not in drops, but in shimmering silver sheets, a vertical river pouring from the heavens to the earth. It strikes the ancient stone pavement not with a splash, but with a sound like cosmic applause. 1,000,000 tiny hands clapping in the immense echoing darkness. Thrum, thrum, thrum. It is the savory, funky, indispensable anchor of every single meal. The fire is burning in a simple clay brazier. It is a small, efficient fire, fed by dried palm fronds that crackle and pop with a sharp, satisfying snap hiss, releasing a sweet, grassy smoke. Watch as the evening meal is prepared. A woman scoops rice from a large woven basket. This is not just food. It is the currency of the empire, the very reason this colossal hydraulic city exists. The vast barais, the endless canals, the king's divine power, it all serves the ultimate, humble purpose of filling this simple wooden bowl. The rice is a beautiful medley of red and white grains, unpolished, releasing a plume of fragrant steam that smells of jasmine and damp earth. On a small grill set over the glowing coals, a snakehead fish is roasting. It was caught this morning in the canal just outside the door. Its skin blisters and crackles, turning a gorgeous mosaic of black and gold, releasing a cloud of fatty, smoky steam that makes the mouth water instantly. This is a diet of astonishing, casual abundance. We often imagine ancient peasants as perpetually starving, desperately scraping a meager living from the unforgiving dirt. But here, in the golden age of Angkor, hunger is a stranger. The land is too generous, the water is too full of life. If you throw a net into the canal, you will pull out a fish. If you press a seed into the mud, it will sprout within days. Sit down on the woven mat. The family gathers. The men have returned from the rice paddies, their skin caked with the fertile black mud that is the source of all wealth. The children are naked and joyous, their skin still damp from an entire afternoon spent swimming and shrieking in the canal. Listen to the sounds of the meal. The slurping of the fish soup, made tantalizingly sour with tamarind and sharp with fresh ginger. The satisfying crunch of the fresh herbs, sweet basil, mint, sawtooth coriander, that grow wild in tangled, fragrant profusion all around the house. The sound funnels down the long hallway, amplified and deepened by the resonant stone, wrapping you in a dense, protective cocoon of primordial white noise. There is a feeling of profound cellular safety here. The stone temples may belong to the gods and the kings, but this wooden house belongs to the family. The gods demand perfection, symmetry, and eternity. The family demands only presence, warmth, and sustenance for the night. But there is a fragility here that hurts the heart to witness. Look closely at the walls of this house. They are merely woven palm leaves, a delicate, permeable membrane against the vastness of the world. Look at the pillars that hold it aloft. They are simple timber, felled from the surrounding forest. We know what happens to wood in the tropics. The termites are already, silently, at work in the posts. The mold is already blooming in the thatch. This house, so full of warmth and laughter tonight, is already dying. It is a temporary prayer against the jungle, and it will not last 50 years. When the empire eventually falls, the stone temples will remain as magnificent skeletons, their purpose and meaning a grand, haunting puzzle for future historians. But these houses, these millions of wooden homes that line the canals and make up the true, living, breathing body of the city, they will vanish without a single trace. They will rot back into the mud, becoming the very soil that nourishes the next jungle. The music of the people, the wooden xylophones, the bamboo flutes, will rot with them. The vibrant, patterned silk will disintegrate into thread and then into dust. The intricate baskets will unravel and be forgotten. All that will remain of this evening, of this family, is perhaps a single shard of pottery buried deep in the dirt. and a microscopic layer of their crop pollen preserved in the sediment of the lake bed. But tonight, they do not think of rot. They think of the satisfying fullness of their bellies. They think of the coolness of the evening breeze blowing through the open walls, a welcome relief from the day's oppressive, suffocating heat. The sun is long gone now. The only light comes from the glowing red embers of the hearth and the flickering oil lamps in the other stilt houses across the water. The village looks like a constellation of fallen stars, perfectly mirroring the vast, silent galaxy spread out above. The noise of the day begins to recede. The babies are asleep in their hammocks, swaying gently to the constant, hypnotic rhythm of a mother's foot. Squeak, creak. Squeak, creak. Step closer to the edge of the corridor. Do not step out into the downpour. Remain here, under the dry, solid shelter of the gallery. But reach out your hand. Feel the air. It is thick, completely saturated, a liquid atmosphere. The boundary between the house and the forest is thin, almost non-existent. The night air carries the sound of the frogs, a deafening, unified chorus rising from the flooded rice paddies. It brings the high-pitched, menacing whine of the mosquito, the tiny, deadly warrior that has always defended the jungle against all intruders. The people retreat under their nets. They are safe for now, in their small wooden islands adrift in the great green ocean of the night. But outside, in the stone heart of the city, the giants are awake. The gods do not sleep. The king does not sleep. We must leave the simple comfort of the bamboo floor. We must go back out into the dark. We must bear witness to the spiritual machinery that keeps this city alive, not just on earth, but in the eyes of the cosmos. The fire in the hearth is dying down to ash. The night watch is beginning. Leave the village. Leave the sleeping children and the dying embers of the family hearth. We must return to the stone. The moon has finally broken through the last tattered veil of the storm clouds. It hangs low and heavy over the city, a pale silver eye reflecting in the black mirror of the moats. The rain has stopped, leaving behind a silence so profound it rings in the ears. The only sound is the constant, meditative dripping of water from a million leaves. Plip, 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 the slow, inexorable ticking of the jungle's clock. We are crossing the causeway into Angkor, the great city. Walk across the bridge. To your left, a row of 54 stone giants, their faces beatific and serene, are pulling the coiled body of the great serpent Naga. To your right, 54 demons, their faces contorted in a grimace of snarling rage, are pulling its tail. They are frozen in an eternal tug-of-war, locked in a silent, cosmic battle for control of the universe, their powerful forms illuminated by the stark, unforgiving moonlight. Some look fierce, some look calm, but all of them are staring directly at you. Pass through the city gate. It is a narrow maw of stone, designed for the majestic passage of a royal elephant, not for any modern machine. Above you, A tower rises into the darkness, and for the first time, you see it. It clings to your skin, a cool, damp film that feels like a second breath, cleansing and pure. A face carved into the rock, 3 meters high, looking down at you with heavy, lidded eyes, its expression utterly, unnervingly unreadable. But this is just the guardian of the gate. The true audience awaits in the center. Move forward. The jungle parts, and there, rising from the night mists like a fever dream, is the Bayon. It does not look like a temple. It looks like a mountain of chaos, a ganglion of stone. It is a jagged, brooding pile of rocks, dark and menacing against the night sky. It lacks the perfect horizontal mathematical symmetry of Angkor Wat. It feels primal, organic, like a termite mound built by giants and forgotten by time. It feels grown, not built. Climb the steep, precipitous steps. The stone is slick with wet moss, treacherous in the dark. Ascend to the upper terrace. And then you are surrounded. You have ascended into an audience. You are standing in a forest of colossal stone faces. Look around you. To your left, to your right, above you, behind you. On every tower, facing every cardinal direction, there is a face. 216 of them in total. There is no profile here, only an unwavering, omnidirectional gaze. Look out into the gray, aqueous twilight. The world here is not a world of color, but an immense and intricate study in texture. They are the faces of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. Or perhaps they are the deified faces of the king himself, Jayavarman VII, the leper king who pivoted an entire empire from the worship of Shiva to the compassionate path of the Buddha. In the harsh, analytical light of day, they can look like simple ruins, but in the moonlight, they come alive. The shadows play tricks on the stone. The shifting, silvery light makes the lips seem to curl into a subtle, knowing smile. It is the famous smile of Angkor. It is not a smile of joy or mirth. It is a smile of supreme, cosmic detachment. It is the smile of a being who has witnessed the birth and death of stars and finds it all mildly, eternally amusing. Stand perfectly still. You feel a strange, prickling pressure on the back of your neck, the undeniable, primal feeling of being watched. You turn around. Another face is looking right at you, its enigmatic expression unchanged. There is no privacy here. There is no hiding place. The very architecture is a panopticon of the soul. The king is everywhere. Compassion is everywhere. It is a terrifying, inescapable intimacy. In the old Hindu temples, the god was hidden away in a dark, small cell, the Garbhagriha, in the very center, accessible only to the highest priests. But here the god has exploded outward. He is looking in all four cardinal directions simultaneously. He is watching the rice fields growing to the east. He is watching for enemies approaching from the west. He is watching over the sleeping peasants in their wooden houses to the north and south. This is the night watch. The stone is not dead. It is alive, awakened by the storm. The sandstone, which in the desiccated heat of the dry season is a warm sandy beige, has been transformed by the deluge into a deep, rich, glistening charcoal black, the color of a starless midnight. It is porous. You can see it drinking the rain, the water darkening its surface as it seeps into the microscopic gaps between grains of sand, particles compressed by the weight of forgotten oceans millions of years ago. The psychological weight of this place is staggering. Imagine being a simple citizen of this city 800 years ago. You could never be truly alone. If you looked up from your boat in the canal, you would see the face. If you walked through the bustling market, you would feel its gaze upon you. It was a theocracy of surveillance, but a surveillance built on a promise of infinite care. I see you, the stones whisper, and because I see you, you are safe. Listen to the wind. It whistles through the narrow gaps between the towers. Hoo-hoo. It sounds like a low, resonant hum, a vibration that seems to originate from the hollow chambers of the towers themselves, the slow, steady breath of the stone giants. The faces are eroded. The very rain we just walked through has been dissolving them for centuries, like memories fading over time. Patches of lichen create dark spots on their cheeks like ancient bruises. Wild ferns sprout from their crowns like untamed, verdant hair. But the eyes remain. They are half closed, perpetually suspended in a state of deep meditation. They are dreaming. What are they dreaming of? Perhaps they are dreaming of the water. They know, with the deep, slow certainty of stone, that the city's lifeblood is the intricate, man-made network of canals, reservoirs, and moats. They know that if the water stops flowing, the smile will finally, irrevocably, fade from their lips. The Bayon is the final, breathtaking statement of the Khmer genius. It is the moment they stopped building temples to remote gods on distant mountains and started building a temple to the God that resides within the human being. It is a monument to the human face itself. But even infinite compassion cannot stop the climate from changing. As you stand there, surrounded by the silent, smiling giants, feel the subtle shift in the air. The humidity is dropping. The wind is changing direction, carrying a new scent from afar, something dry and dusty. A new chill coils in the air, a premonition carved not in stone, but in the wind itself. Moss, a vibrant and almost electric green, clings to the crevices of the pillars. It swells with moisture, its velvety texture softening the hard, unyielding edges of the architecture. A living fur on the bones of the temple. Ferns sprout from the cracks in the roof above, their delicate fronds heavy with crystalline droplets, nodding in a slow, rhythmic dance to the downdraft of the storm. The great, predictable cycle is beginning to break. The night watchman sees it coming. He sees clouds gathering for a storm that will be too strong, followed by a sun that will burn with a heat that cracks the very earth. He sees the silt building up in the canals, darker and faster than the legions of dredgers can possibly clear it. The smile does not change. It cannot change. It is carved in stone. But the heart of the empire is beginning to skip a beat. The golden age is over. The silver moonlight feels suddenly terribly cold. We must descend from this terrace of faces. We must leave the king to his eternal, lonely vigil. The tragedy is already approaching, moving as slow and invisible as a drought spreading its desiccating fingers across the land. The faces of the Bayon continue to smile. They smiled through the violent gold of the sunrise, and they smiled through the soft purple of the sunset. But slowly, imperceptibly, the prayers rising up to meet them became more frantic, more desperate. We move forward now into the 14th century. The air in the city has changed. It is no longer the humid, life-giving soup of the Golden Age. It is dry. It is brittle. It tastes of ash. The engine of the empire, the water, is broken. We often think of the collapse of civilizations as a sudden, violent event. We imagine barbarian hordes storming the gates, the clash of steel, the burning of the library. And yes, the armies of Ayutthaya did come from the west. But by the time they arrived, they found a giant already on its knees, gasping for breath. This is a world of grey stone and green life, locked in a slow, eternal wrestling match, a timeless dance of decay and resilience. The day is done. The frantic static of the waking world has finally dissolved, its high-frequency hum receding like a phantom tide, leaving you on a shore of profound stillness. You are suspended here in the quiet, weightless sanctuary of this moment. You have shouldered the crushing gravity of the hours long enough. You have navigated the digital torrents and the concrete canyons, answered the ceaseless summons of illuminated screens, and endured the grinding noise of a world that has forgotten how to rest. The true enemy was invisible. It was the climate itself. Listen to the silence of the West Barat. Once, this was an 8-kilometer-long sea of liquid silver, a triumph of human engineering, a man-made ocean. Now, walk out into its heart. The water has vanished. The ground has fractured into a million-piece puzzle of desiccated clay, a vast ceramic wound on the face of the earth. The grass, bleached to the color of bone, crunches underfoot like shattered glass. The wind raises phantom armies of dust that spiral across the empty reservoir like tormented spirits searching for the water that once gave them life. The mega drought has arrived. We know this not from the stone inscriptions, for kings do not carve memorials to their own failures, but from the silent testimony of the trees. The ancient cypress trees, hidden deep in mountain sanctuaries, kept the diary that the humans refused to write. In their cores, the rings grew tight, microscopic, a secret history of thirst written in the very grain of life. chronicling decades of unrelenting, sky-searing drought. Imagine the rising tide of panic in the hydraulic city. An entire civilization engineered to capture and control heaven's tears. But the heavens refused to weep. The canals, once the flowing arteries of a vibrant empire, became choked, sclerotic veins of stagnant green sludge, thick with the stench of decay. Mosquitoes bred in the shimmering shallows, and with them came the fever that hollowed out the villages. The endless emerald carpets of the rice paddies cracked, then crumbled to dust. The fish, starved of oxygen in the shrinking pools, floated to the surface, their silver bellies turned to a merciless, indifferent sun. The king, the Devaraja, the god king, the lord of the water, became a master of an empty stage. He performed the sacred rituals, a desperate theater for an empty sky. He offered mountains of incense whose smoke rose, undeterred, into a cloudless, mocking blue. He stood on the highest tower of his temple mountain and commanded the water to flow. But geology and meteorology do not kneel before divinity. Walk with me now, down this impossible corridor. Your bare feet make no sound on the flagstones, worn to a silken smoothness by the passage of countless saffron-robed monks, devout pilgrims, and conquering kings. You are a ghost here, a visitor from another time, unseeing and unseen. And then, with the cruel, insane logic of a broken cosmos, the pendulum swung violently to the other extreme. After the drought came the deluge. The monsoon returned, but it returned not as a savior, but as an executioner. This was not a gentle, life-giving soak. It was a hammer blow from the heavens. The sun-baked earth, now as hard as ceramic, could not drink. The deluge became a violent runoff, a torrent of brown, churning fury that tore across the plains. Stand on the banks of the great northern canal. Listen. That is the sound of catastrophic systemic failure. Crack. Boom. The sound of a dike surrendering, the sound of a giant's bones snapping. The infrastructure, brittle from years of drought and neglect, could not contain the surge. The water, a liquid battering ram, tore through the earthen walls. It scoured the canals, filling a century of meticulous engineering with tons of sand and silt in a single violent season. It buried the diversion dams under a thick shroud of mud. The city's magnificent circulatory system suffered a massive, catastrophic stroke. The water, its lifeblood, hemorrhaged into the wrong places, flooding the residential quarters and drowning what few crops remained, while other parts of the city were still gasping, bone dry. They tried to fix it. The archaeological record whispers of their desperation, hasty, frantic repairs. Boulders heaved into the breaches, new canals gouged out of the earth in a panic, slicing crudely through existing roads and foundations, the frantic last acts of a dying organism. But it was too late. The system was too vast, too complex, too fundamentally broken to be saved. The magnificent engine of their prosperity had become the architecture of their doom. And so, the decision was made. Not a royal decree bellowed from the sun-scorched terraces of the Elephant King, but a desperate, feverish whisper carried on the wind. A contagion of pragmatism passed from one family to the next in the failing light of dusk. As we move deeper into the complex, the sheer scale of the place begins to exert a physical pressure on you. This is not a village. This is not a castle. This is a mountain range, quarried, carved, and reassembled by the unshakable will of human hands. To your left, the wall is not bare. Leave. The great fate begins. It is a slow, heartbreaking, and profoundly quiet exodus. Watch the families as they load their meager histories onto the protesting groan of wooden axles. They take the cooking pots, their bottoms blackened by 1,000 family meals. They take the worn, woven sleeping mats, still holding the faint impression of their bodies. They take the small bronze statues of the household gods, the gentle-faced goddess of the hearth, the fierce guardian of the threshold, wrapping them with a surgeon's care in fragments of precious silk. But the heavy things, the things of permanence, they must leave behind. The stone they must abandon, the gods carved into the very soul of the city, the kings whose sandstone eyes have stared down centuries, are too heavy for this journey of survival. They belong to a past that can no longer be carried. The great procession, a river of humanity in retreat, turns its collective back on the city of gods. It moves south, flowing toward the great artery of the Mekong, toward the promise of a new capital in Phnom Penh, toward the chaotic, vibrant trade routes of the coast. They are following the water. They are following the rice. They are trading the glorious geometric paralysis of their stone city for the uncertain, fluid promise of the living river. They do not look back. To look back is to be turned to salt. To look back is to become one with the stone you have abandoned. Walk through the city now. It is the year 1432. The king has departed. The last ox cart has vanished over the horizon. The silence that rushes in to fill the void is not an absence of sound, but a physical presence, a crushing pressure against the ears, a predatory stillness that swallows all echoes. It is terrifying. The once teeming markets are hollowed-out shells, skeletal remains of commerce. The stalls where shimmering silks from China were once sold are now just splintered sun-bleached wood. The fires in the thousands of household hearths have long gone out, leaving only cold, perfect pyramids of grey ash, the final ghosts of warmth and life. The city's dogs, abandoned by their masters in the quiet panic, now roam in gaunt, desperate packs, their lonely howls echoing down the empty boulevards like a final, mournful prayer. And with the departure of the last human hand, the ceaseless maintenance stops. This is the moment the world pivots on its axis. It is alive, covered from floor to ceiling in carvings. Miles and miles of them. For 500 years, a legion of workers had scrubbed the encroaching moss from the infinitely detailed sandstone reliefs. For 500 years, they had dredged the accumulating silt from the vast, life-giving moats and barais. For 500 years, they had relentlessly, tirelessly waged a daily war against the jungle, cutting it back from the sacred precincts. Now, the last gardener has laid down his machete. He has walked away. The jungle, which has been waiting patiently in the wings, a vast, coiled entity of patient green hunger, now takes its first deliberate step onto the stage. A single banyan seed, carried on the wind or in the gut of a bird, lands in an almost invisible fissure on a temple roof. It is infinitesimal, a forgotten comma in the city's grand sentence. It settles into a small, dry patch of bird droppings and dust. The monsoon comes. It germinates. A vine, a thin, questing green finger, reaches out and touches the flaking plaster of a gallery wall. It finds a hold. It begins to climb. The water in the vast, sky-mirroring moat stops moving. The lotus flowers, no longer cleared away by dutiful hands, bloom in a riotous, unchecked frenzy, choking the surface until the cosmos reflected there turns into a stagnant, buzzing swamp. The slow fade is not a violent conquest. It is a gentle, inexorable surrender. It is the sound of a single heavy ceramic roof tile, its glaze worn away by centuries of sun, sliding loose and clattering into the tall, waiting grass. Clack. It is the sound of a massive wooden door, its iron hinges rusted through, falling with a wet, final, sighing exhalation into the mud. Thud. The color bleeds from the city. The gold leaf that once blazed on the temple towers like captured suns peels away in the sun and the rain, surrendering to the elements and revealing the somber gray stone beneath. The brilliant white plaster that coated the walls flakes and falls like dry skin, exposing the raw red laterite core like flayed muscle. The city is shedding its skin. It is preparing for its own burial. The hydraulic city is becoming a forest city. Let your consciousness drift like a phantom hand over the intricate surface. These are the bas-reliefs, the stone tapestries of a lost empire. Even in this dim, watery light, you can discern the shapes. Great armies march in perfect, disciplined formation. 1,000 stone soldiers locked in step for 1,000 years. War elephants, their tusks raised in a silent, deafening trumpet, carry princes into the glorious chaos of battle. But through the long, slow erosion of centuries, the stone faces of the Bayon continue to smile. Their enigmatic gaze drifts out over the empty plazas where kings once held court, over the skeletal phantoms of collapsed stilt houses, over the slow, silent green tide of the forest's inexorable advance. Theirs is not a smile of fleeting joy, but of serene, cosmic acceptance. It is a smile carved from the bedrock of eternity itself, a knowing, patient curve that has witnessed the birth and death of suns. They do not judge the vanity of empires. They do not weep for the departed. They simply watch. They know they are no longer the center of a universe held together by faith and force. They are merely stones in a forest, waiting patiently, peacefully, to be reclaimed. The great fate is complete. The people have scattered like pollen on the wind. The histories, so carefully inscribed on brittle palm leaf manuscripts, have surrendered to the wet heat of the monsoon, their ink bleeding into the rich earth like forgotten memories. Now, the true, ancient owner of this land returns to reclaim its dominion. The profound quiet is about to be shattered by a sound far older than any human prayer. The slow, inexorable, grinding groan of wood crushing stone. The humans have fled their stone mandalas. The great canals, the engineered arteries of the kingdom, are now choked with silt and throttled by weeds. The sound of 1,000 chanting monks has dissolved into the sibilant whisper of the wind through the leaves of Bodhi trees. A new silence descends, but it is not one of emptiness. It is a heavy, living pressure, a palpable, organic presence. It is the sound of the jungle taking a single, deep, collective breath before it steps out from the shadows and back into the light. Witness the true invasion. It does not come with clashing armies and brazen trumpets, but with the silent, insidious, and undeniable promise of a single seed. The great hornbill, its casque of flesh of gold, glides over the hushed courtyard of a forgotten temple. Perhaps the labyrinthine, feminine Ta Pom, perhaps the martial, masculine Prahok. It perches high on the Gopura, the main sanctuary gate, and digests its meal. It drops a single, sticky ficus seed. The seed tumbles into a dark crevice between two massive sandstone blocks, a fissure where centuries of dust, pollen, and decaying leaves have gathered like a fertile offering. The monsoon rains fall, a grey drumming curtain on the ancient stone. The seed swells. It sends out a tiny, questing, bone-white root, a silken thread of inquiry, searching for purchase in the world of mineral and memory. Kings hold court on raised pavilions, surrounded by celestial dancers, frozen in mid-motion, their divine bodies trapped in stone, caught in a single moment of grace that has somehow outlasted the civilization that created it. This is the strangler fig, the Ficus gibosa. It begins its life with an air of impossible innocence, as an epiphyte, a fragile airborne guest living on nothing but the humid air and the ambient moisture of this drenched world. But slowly, inexorably, gravity calls its children home. The roots begin their long descent, trickling over the carved faces of gods and celestial dancers, cascading down the stone walls like delicate, searching tendrils of molten white wax. They are seeking the soil, the deep, dark, patient nourishment of the earth. Year by year, decade by decade, the tendrils gorge themselves on darkness and water, swelling with stolen life. They fuse and braid together, weaving themselves into a living river of wood, a pale, muscular albino constrictor. Witness the transformation. The roots are no longer delicate inquiries. They are pythons of living timber, wrapping themselves around the body of the temple, mapping its every line, its every joint, its every weakness. They seek the fine, hair-thin seams in the masonry, the work of master builders who used a dry stone construction of such brilliant mathematical precision that it relied only on gravity, not mortar. And then, having found the temple's secret heart, they squeeze. Creak. Crack. It is a violence in slow motion, a geological siege conducted by a single, relentless plant. It is a wrestling match between biology and geology that lasts for centuries. The tree desires only to stand, to claw its way toward the sun. The stone desires only to hold its sacred geometric shape against the chaos of time. The tree wins. The roots pry the massive blocks apart, lifting carved lintels that weigh many tons, as if they were a child's forgotten toys. They buckle the floors of long, silent galleries and crush the corbelled arches from within. But, and here is the sublime, cruel irony of this place, in the very act of annihilation, the tree becomes the temple's salvation. The relentless, invasive roots become its new columns. The swelling, parasitic trunk becomes its new keystone. The conqueror becomes the cradle. Were you to cut the great tree down now, the temple it has so thoroughly vanquished would collapse into a meaningless, chaotic pile of rubble. The parasite becomes the armature. The strangler becomes the very thing that holds its victim together. They are locked now in a fatal, eternal, and strangely beautiful embrace. The strangler's embrace, fused together for all time. But tonight, the rain changes them. The water, carried on the wind from the open courtyard, mists against the carvings. It traces the outlines of the figures with quicksilver threads. It runs down the stone faces of the warriors like tears or sweat. It pools in the deep grooves of chariot wheels. Walk through Taprom in your mind. The hour is twilight. The last of the tourists have departed, their chatter fading into the rising electric hum of the cicadas. The wooden walkways, built for your convenience, are empty and silent. The scene before you is one of terrible, Gothic beauty. The jungle has not merely reclaimed this place, it has consumed it, digesting the rigid architecture into a new and fantastical organic form. Giant silk cotton trees soar hundreds of feet into the sky, their pale trunks dissolving at the base into massive buttress roots that flow over the temple walls like petrified lava, frozen in the very act of devouring the stone. A thick green velvet of moss smothers everything, softening the sharp man-made edges of the carvings. The serene face of a Devata, a celestial nymph, peers out from behind a curtain of dripping, luminous ferns, her enigmatic smile half hidden, half revealed. She looks as if she is peacefully drowning in a deep, silent, emerald sea. For 400 years, the city slept in this verdant, living tomb. To the local Khmer villagers living in its shadow, it was never truly lost. They hunted deer in these shadowed, ruined woods. They gathered wild honey from hives built deep within the crumbling sanctums. They knew this place, the Nokor Tom, the great city, belonged to the Nyakta, the powerful ancient spirits of the land. The city had simply been given back to its rightful, unseen owners. It was a sacred, forbidden, and deeply respected place. But to the outside world, it vanished. It dissolved into myth, a fever dream of a lost city of the jungle, an El Dorado of the East, a forgotten Rome swallowed whole by the green abyss of time. Until 1860, a French naturalist, a romantic, butterfly-chasing soul named Henri Mouhot, pushed aside a thick, heavy curtain of liana vines. Imagine that singular, world-changing moment. The flash of his machete slicing through the humid, buzzing undergrowth. The sudden, shocking, almost violent intrusion of sunlight into the deep green gloom. And there, rising from the chaotic, untamed riot of nature, were the 5 lotus bud towers of Angkor Wat. Grey, silent, and impossibly, heartbreakingly grand. His hand surely trembled as he wrote in his diary, "It is grander than anything left to us by Greece or Rome. A rival to Solomon's temple, erected by some ancient Michelangelo." Asterisk. It makes the stone gleam like living skin. The play of light on the moving water creates an illusion of motion, as if the deluge itself is breathing life back into this static history, forcing the stone to remember. He stood there, stunned into a profound, reverent silence, asking the one question that would echo for a century. How could a civilization of such magnificent power, of such breathtaking artistry, simply vanish? How could such perfect cosmic geometry be buried alive by a forest? But he was mistaken. It didn't vanish. It was transfigured. Here in our present moment, in 2026, the rain begins to fall again. The great cycle continues, indifferent to our questions, our awe, our presence. The timber palaces are gone, leaving not even a ghost behind. The shimmer of gold leaf is gone. The palm leaf books are gone. But the stone endures, and the water endures. Stand in the heart of the great complex one last time. Night has fallen completely. A deafening, percussive, hypnotic chorus of frogs begins its song. The same rhythm they sang for Jayavarman VII 1,000 years ago. The air is cool on your skin, fragrant with the electric smell of ozone and the deep, earthy petrichor of wet sandstone. You are safe here. The great struggle is finished. The collapse has already come and gone. Here, in the long, quiet aftermath, there is only a profound and lasting peace. The ruins have accepted their fate. They are no longer fighting the embrace of the jungle. They have become a part of its very body. In the profound starless darkness, the smiling faces of the Bayon are still watching. But now, they watch over a silent kingdom of trees. They watch the monkeys as they scamper and chase each other over the moonlit terraces. They watch the moss as it grows, slowly and tenderly, upon their own ancient, smiling, stone lips. They are content. Feel the immense weight of this history lifting from your shoulders. You have walked the long causeway of time. You have witnessed the blazing sun of the Golden Age and the long, quiet, green twilight of its decline. You have stood before the fundamental truth that everything, every empire, every monument, every stone, every god carved in its image, must eventually surrender to the patient, waiting soil. The corridor stretches on, seemingly endless. This is the gallery of 1,000 Buddhas, or perhaps the outer enclosure of Angkor Wat itself. The entire temple was conceived as a microcosm of the Hindu universe. The central towers, hidden somewhere in the rain-swept distance, represent the 5 sacred peaks of Mount Meru, the mythical home of the gods. The vast moat that surrounds us, miles in circumference, represents the cosmic ocean. And that is a profoundly comforting thought. It means that your own worries, your own struggles, your own anxieties are just as temporary. It means that the stress of your day is but a passing cloud in the vast, silent, and indifferent sky of time. The rain softens to a gentle mist, a soft, whispering hiss on a billion waiting leaves. The sleepless historian closes the leather-bound journal. The candle flame dances one last time, a final, flickering prayer of light, and then exhales a single, final, fragrant curl of grey smoke into the night. The darkness is total now. It is a velvet darkness, soft, deep, and warm. Let the image of the jungle city fade. Let the roots hold the stone. Let the water fill the moat. You are drifting away from Angkor. You are drifting back toward the quiet, still, and peaceful center of your own sleep. The stone sleeps. The tree sleeps. The water sleeps. And now, so must you. Good night, my sleepless friend. And right now, that cosmic ocean is falling from the sky. There is a profound loneliness here, but it is not a frightening loneliness. It is a majestic, tectonic solitude. You are safe in the belly of this beautiful sleeping beast. The sheer mass of the stone around you, millions of tons of rock, quarried, transported, and lifted into the sky by nothing but muscle, faith, and time, creates a sense of absolute, unshakable stability. The storm can rage, the wind can whip the tops of the distant sugar palm trees into a frenzy, but these walls will not move. But all of that is behind you now. It is a distant echo, a story being told in another language, in another lifetime. They have weathered 10,000 storms, just like this one. You are anchored to the very center of the earth. Listen closely. Beneath the percussive drumming of the rain, you can hear the drainage. The architects who built this place were masters of water, hydromancers in service to a god king. You can hear the deep gurgle of hidden channels inside the walls, the rush of water flowing through stone spouts carved into the likeness of lions and mythical sea creatures called makaras. The city is a machine, a grand instrument designed to catch the rain, to channel it, to store it, to tame it. Even in its ruin, the machine still tries to work. You can see the water flowing from the upper terraces to the lower ones, cascading down worn stone steps like a series of miniature orchestrated waterfalls. The sound is deeply soothing. It is the sound of a system flushing itself clean. We pause at a break in the wall. A doorway, framed by heavy, carved stone lintels, leads out onto a wide causeway. In the distance, through the shifting, shimmering veil of rain, you can just make out the silhouette of the central towers. They look like colossal lotus buds, closed tight against the storm. They loom out of the mist, dark shapes against a darker sky, impossibly high, impossibly grand. Lightning flickers, not a jagged bolt, but a soft, silent sheet of it that illuminates the clouds from within. For a split second, the entire temple complex is cast in a pale, ethereal blue glow. And in that fleeting, breathtaking moment, you see the faces. Not the faces of people, the faces of the towers themselves. On the gatehouse ahead of us, and on the distant towers of the Bayon, 4 massive stone faces look out in the 4 cardinal directions. They are the 4 faces of the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the embodiment of boundless compassion. Or perhaps they are the deified visage of the king himself, Jayavarman VII, who saw himself as a god on earth. Their eyelids are heavy, their lips carved into a serene, enigmatic smile. The rain runs down their cheeks like divine tears. They do not look angry. They do not look sad. They look accepting. They are watching the rain with the infinite patience of geology. They have seen the city rise from the mud, and they have watched it being slowly, lovingly reclaimed by the forest. They are the silent, eternal witnesses to all things. You feel a sense of your own smallness, but it is a profoundly comforting smallness. In the face of such permanence, such quiet endurance, your own worries, your deadlines, your anxieties, your fears seem to shrink until they are nothing more than dust motes, washed away without a trace by the cleansing monsoon. It is time to relinquish your burdens. Feel them slide from the very architecture of your shoulders, pooling at your feet like a heavy velvet cloak you no longer have any use for. It is time to let the tension coiled deep in your muscles finally unspool, like a tightly wound spring that has, at long last, been released from its purpose. Why did they build this? Why did they quarry and stack these millions of stones in the middle of a feverish, malarial jungle? They wanted to build heaven on earth. They wanted to arrest the relentless, chaotic flow of time. They wanted to create something that would last forever. And in a way, they succeeded. The wood of their houses has rotted into dust. The silk of their clothes has disintegrated. The gold that once covered these stone gods has been plundered. But the stone remains. The vision remains. The air grows cooler as the night deepens. The humidity hangs low, a physical weight that gently presses you down, deeper and deeper into relaxation. The sound of the rain is constant, a shield of white noise that blocks out all other frequencies. Nothing can reach you here. You are safe in the sanctuary of the wet stone. You are a traveler, sheltering from the storm of history. Let your breathing synchronize with the sound of the water. Inhale, imagining the cool, damp air filling your lungs, carrying the scent of moss and ancient rain. Exhale, releasing the heat and noise of your day, letting it drift away from you like steam rising from hot pavement. Inhale, the stability of the stone. Exhale, the fluidity of the water. We are drifting backward now, through time itself. In our mind's eye, the ruin is beginning to heal itself. The moss recedes like a green tide. The broken stones lift themselves from the jungle floor and fit seamlessly back into place. The silence of the abandoned city is about to be filled. But before we can see the city as it was, we must first understand the land that birthed it. We must look beneath the stone pavement. We must understand the water not as a weather event, but as a living, breathing, and often merciless God. We must descend from this temple mountain and travel to the edge of the Great Lake. We must listen to the very pulse of the earth itself. Tonight, we are not merely seeking the absence of light or the silencing of noise. We are seeking true shelter. The rain continues to fall, washing the slate clean, preparing the stage for our story to begin. Rest here for a moment longer. Lean your back against the cool, solid pillar. Close your eyes. Listen to the weeping of the stone. History is waiting. Behold the sprawl, not of stone, but of life. Thousands upon thousands of wooden houses teeter on stilts, their roofs a shaggy thatch of palm leaves, all clustering like barnacles along the silver arteries of the canals. See the smoke from 10,000 hearths, a soft exhalation rising into the humid evening air, coalescing into a gentle, blue-tinted haze that drapes itself over the city like a veil of dreams. See the creaking, high-arched bridges, groaning under the weight of ox carts laden with produce and people. See the markets, a riot of sound and color, overflowing with lustrous silks from the distant celestial empire, and the heady, intoxicating scent of spices carried on ocean winds from the coast of India. It is a garden city, a low-density miracle stretching for hundreds of square kilometers. It is a vast and intricate mesh of shimmering rice paddies, placid fish ponds, and vibrant neighborhoods, all stitched together by the lifeblood of the water. Everything flows. The water flows from the sacred mountain of Phnom Kulen to the colossal Baray reservoirs, man-made lakes so vast they altered the local climate, their surfaces mirroring the heavens. From the Barays to the moats that guard the stone gods, from the moats to the fields that feed the people, it is a perfectly engineered circulatory system, a work of hydraulic genius that pumps the very blood of the monsoon through the veins of the empire. From this celestial height, it feels invincible. The geometry seems eternal. The ruler-straight lines of the roads, the perfect mirrored squares of the reservoirs, the concentric protective circles of the temple walls. It all imposes a sense of absolute divine control. It is a declaration carved into the very earth itself, a testament that proclaims, We have conquered nature. We have tamed the unpredictable seasons. We have arrested the relentless cycle of time. Listen. Can you hear it? The sound of the rain. This is not the gentle, apologetic tapping of a spring shower on a window pane. This is heavier, deeper, more elemental. But there is a fatal flaw in the design. A beautiful, tragic flaw. Look closer. Look again at the water shimmering in the canals. It is moving, yes, but it carries a passenger. Silt. Sand. The very earth upon which they build is being carried into the heart of the machine. Slowly, imperceptibly, clogging the kingdom's arteries with its own substance. The entire system is a magnificent, impossible gamble. It is too glorious, too intricate, too thirsty. It demands constant, back-breaking maintenance. Every channel must be dredged of the encroaching land. Every dike must be reinforced against the water's immense pressure. Its very existence relies on a razor-thin balance between too much water and too little, between the deluge of monsoon and the cracked earth of drought. The city is a tightrope walker, balanced precariously on a shimmering line of water, suspended high above the hungry green abyss of the jungle. But for now, the sun is high and unchallenged in the sky. The gilded temple spires shine like miniature suns. The water sparkles. The king, the Devaraja, the god king, sits on his throne in the center of the world, and the universe itself revolves around him in perfect, obedient harmony. The Gold Mage is beautiful. It is a staggering, breathtaking triumph of the human mind over the primordial chaos of the swamp. But we must always remember, the higher the tower, the longer and darker the shadow it casts upon the earth. Let us descend now. Let us abandon the map and step into the territory. We have seen the gold from the heavens. Now we must feel the dust of the earth. We must go down to the level of the human hand that carved this impossible beauty out of the stubborn, silent rock. This is a percussive curtain of water, a liquid shroud falling from a sky the color of bruised steel and twilight. It drums a steady, hypnotic rhythm against the roof of your consciousness, a primal beat that washes away the fine, anxious dust of the present moment and utterly drowns out the insistent, tyrannical ticking of the clock. We are drifting down, spiraling toward the galleries. The blinding, celestial light of the open sky fades, replaced by the cool, waiting shadow of the stone. We have fallen from the clouds. The shimmering, logical grid of the hydraulic city has dissolved, utterly blocked from view by a monolithic wall of gray rock that rises mere inches from your face. The air here is different. It is ancient and still. It does not smell of the wet, fertile earth of the rice paddies, with the fragrant, savory smoke of the cooking fires. It smells dry. It smells sharp. It smells of friction, of immense pressure, of stone grinding against metal. Open your mouth and taste it. There is a fine grit on your tongue. It is silica. It is the dust of mountains ground down into a fine, sharp powder by the tireless hands of men. Quiet your mind. Block out the world and listen to the true sound of the Golden Age. It is not the triumphant blast of a trumpet. It is not the divine command of a king. It is a sound far more fundamental, the true heartbeat of this Golden Age. A simple, relentless, meditative rhythm. Tink, 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 scrape. The sound of a man whispering a god out of stone. We are standing in the gallery of the third enclosure, but it is not the hallowed space you know. It is unfinished. It is a construction site. The year is 1140. The floor is a treacherous landscape of stone chips, sharp as scattered diamonds on the bare feet. Zoom in. Closer. Push in until the rest of the universe disappears and your world is reduced to a single square foot of sandstone and a pair of hands. Allow the rigid boundaries of your room to soften, to recede and dissolve into memory. The sharp, certain angles of your furniture bleed into the deepening shadows. The very atmosphere itself is undergoing a transformation. It grows cooler, heavier, laden with a palpable moisture you can almost taste on your tongue. The dry, sterile scent of conditioned air is being overthrown by something ancient, primal, and unmistakable, the smell of petrichor. The hands are brown, the palms thick with calluses like worn leather, the skin ingrained with the white dust of the quarry until it has become part of the man himself. They grip a chisel made of bronze, its tip perhaps hardened with iron. The metal is dull, worn down, and blunted by the relentless, abrasive appetite of the stone. The stone is sandstone. To the touch, it feels like solidified sandpaper. It is unforgiving. If you were to rub your thumb against its surface, it would take your skin without apology. One mistake, one strike a fraction too hard, and the delicate nose of a god crumbles to dust. The elegant finger of a celestial dancer snaps beyond repair. There is no eraser in this word. There is only perfection or failure. Watch the artisan at his work. He is not carving a block. He is releasing a prisoner. He is a midwife to a goddess. He is carving an Apsara, a celestial dancer, born from the churning of the cosmic ocean. She is trapped inside this slab of gray rock, waiting patiently to be born. He works with a terrifying meditative patience. He chips away the excess, the mundane, the profane. The rough, granular surface slowly gives way to a smooth, impossible curve. He purses his lips and blows the dust away. A small, ghostly cloud of white smoke vanishes, revealing the gentle line of a hip, the delicate arch of a foot. It is a miracle of texture. How does he make something so unyieldingly hard look so impossibly soft? Look at her waist. It is impossibly narrow, the ideal of divine femininity. Look at her hand. The fingers are bent back in a gesture of sublime grace, the Kpak Mudra, a movement that mimics the slow, deliberate opening of a sacred lotus flower. He carves the intricate jewelry around her neck, tiny, perfect beads of stone, each one distinct, each one a prayer. He carves the patterned silk of her sarong, etching lines so impossibly fine they look like threads woven by a celestial spider. And she is smiling. It is the famous, enigmatic Khmer smile, serene, detached, all-knowing. It is a smile that seems to say, I am made of stone, but I am lighter than air. I am eternal. It is the sharp, clean tang of ozone from a distant, unseen lightning strike. It is the deep, resonant scent of parched earth taking its first long, grateful drink in an age. It is the ghost of crushed leaves releasing their green soul and, above all, the profound, clean, mineral scent of wet stone. There are nearly 2,000 of these divine women carved into the walls of Angkor Wat alone. No two are exactly alike. They possess different hairstyles, different jewelry, different subtle expressions. They are a silent chorus line of stone spirits dancing for eternity in the cool, silent corridors. Think of the time. To carve one Apsara requires weeks of focused, agonizing labor. To carve an entire wall takes a lifetime. To carve a temple, that takes an empire. The man carving this very figure will never see the temple finished. He will die long before the final stone is placed, his lungs likely coated and hardened with the very dust he has spent his life creating. His son will take up his chisel. His grandson will polish the stone his grandfather carved. This is the very definition of devotion. It is the complete surrender of the individual ego to a collective dream, a dream larger than any single life. The artist does not sign his work. There is no Michelangelo here, no celebrated genius. There's only the anonymous hand, serving the God King, serving the empire, serving the stone. Move along the wall. The singular, intimate beauty of the Apsara gives way to the sprawling, tectonic grandeur of the epic. We are standing before the bas-reliefs. These are not mere statues. They are tapestries woven from solid rock. They stretch for hundreds of meters, a continuous, breathtaking ribbon of storytelling that wraps the temple in myth. This is the churning of the ocean of milk. Run your fingers lightly over the surface. It is cool and smooth, polished to a fine sheen by the touch of millions of hands over 1,000 years. But look past the texture and see the sheer cosmic violence depicted in the scene. 88 Asuras, demons, strain on one side. 91 Devas, gods, pull on the other. They are gripping the colossal body of the serpent king Vasuki, who has been wrapped around the mountain pivot of Mandara. They are pulling, churning. We are traveling now, carried on the sound, on the scent of this sacred rain. We are journeying to the very heart of the monsoon. We are traveling to the stone vastness of Angkor.